I'm Jonas Bendiksen, photographer, originally from Norway. So I've been working as a freelance photographer for the last 10 years. I started getting interested in photography when I was about 15, I think, as a teenager. Borrowed my dad's camera, built a little darkroom in my parents' bathroom. And it was sort of a hobby that just started taking more and more of my time. And then when I finished school, it was sort of a choice. Do I keep doing this or do I find something else to do? And I kept doing it. And, found a way to work on my own personal projects. The projects I really want to do, I've always found a way to make them. Satellites was for me a very important work because it's how I learned to be a photographer, essentially. In many ways, I'm self-taught because although I went to a photography school for a year, it was not very productive, I think. So everything I know about photography, I feel like, in many ways, I learned through making that book. Although, for a large period of time, while I was working on the, smaller stories that formed the book, I hadn't yet conceived that it was a larger project. That's something that came later. It sort of matured into a larger project after a while. More than anything, I think it's more a creative experience that you mature in the process of doing it, and you see much more clearly who you are as a photographer in the process of making a book. Because making a book is, I think, one of the most disciplined and stringent things you can do. It demands a lot of thought, a lot of creative energy. So in the process of making a book, I think you learn a lot about yourself that you can take forward into the next work you do. After I finished Satellites, I started work on my next big project, which is called The Places We Live, which is a project I started in 2005, which is about slum communities around the world. And the work on Dharavi, which is exhibited here at Perpignan, is a small part of that work. This project spans 4 cities. It's in Caracas, Nairobi, Mumbai, and Jakarta. And it basically looks at slum communities in all these countries. Back in 2005, sort of discovering these staggering numbers, I wanted to find a way to visually talk about this, what it means when a third of every urban dweller on the planet is actually a slum dweller. It's a way of life that's no longer an exception, it's more the norm in human habitation. So I thought it was an important issue to talk about. If you have 1 billion slum dwellers, every hour of their life is not just filled with misery and desperation. There's a lot of dignity, there's a lot of creativity, there's a lot of energy and a lot of human life happening, a lot of self-organization. And that's sort of what I wanted to do with the project, to try to hack away a little bit at some of these stereotypes. We always think of them as, sort of the dark side of town where one shouldn't go, etc. But normal families live there. They pay rent, send their kids to school, try to make the best of it. And what makes Dharavi so unique as a slum community is that it's incredibly productive. It's just filled with literally thousands of small businesses, family businesses, people just finding a way to be productive, make a living in myriads of creative ways. Everyone in Dharavi wants a better life. Everyone. But Dharavi right now is essentially set to be demolished. The city of Bombay, in sort of its bid to modernize the city, bring it up to a 21st century megapolis, plan to demolish Dharavi, rehouse at least a part of the population in high-rise buildings, in apartments. And whilst on paper this sounds fairly good, a lot of the population are also against it. Many cities' approach to slum dwellers, it's very often about demolishing and sort of chasing them to the outskirts of town, whereas not so much energy is always put into creative ways of sort of upgrading the slum. The whole project was shot digitally, and I just kept some hard drives in the place I stayed. I had no problems with security, so I just kept a couple of drives, a main drive and a backup drive, and I shot my normal digital camera. The thing that's so unique about Dharavi is the tremendous amount of work that goes on inside the slum. Actually, the BBC once had an article that estimated the yearly economic output of Dharavi to be in the vicinity of $1 billion per year. So it's a hugely productive area. Thousands of small family businesses. And the thing that always amazed me is sort of we always hear people live on $1 a day, but I was just amazed by the myriad of ways people find a way to make that $1. This is a group of people from Andhra Pradesh in India, and they had set up a business just beneath these huge water pipes where they got sort of refuse paint in chip form from paint factories in bags, hammered it up, crushed it, reconstituted it, and sold it back to sort of a second-hand paint factory. People argue about the actual amount of people living in Dharavi, but it's somewhere in between 600,000 and 1 million people, and it's in approximately 1 square mile. One of the things I wanted to do in the store is obviously family life, not just the work or the exteriors, but get in people's houses and just show a little bit of normal family interaction. I spent quite a bit of time with this family, the Shilpiri family. It's one small room of maybe 90 square feet, but in 2 levels, so 150, 180 square feet maybe. But there are 15 people at times living in that space. No matter how good a magazine article you make, once you put together 43 images in the exhibition, it's something else. So I'm very happy to be here.